Chicago, 1929. The Roaring Twenties. The city is alive with jazz, dancing, and money. But beneath the glittering surface, a bloody war is raging. This is the era of prohibition, and a simple bottle of whiskey is worth more than gold. Control the booze, and you control the city. Two men stand at the heart of this conflict. On one side, the infamous Al Capone, the most feared and powerful crime boss in America. On the other, George "Bugs" Moran, the hot-headed leader of the rival North Side Gang. Their hatred for each other is legendary, a simmering feud that's about to boil over and stain the streets of Chicago red. On February 14, 1929, that hatred will explode into one of the most brutal and notorious crimes in American history. A crime that, even today, remains an unsolved mystery. This is the story of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It's early morning, Valentine's Day. The Chicago air is biting cold, the sky a dull, unforgiving grey. At 2122 North Clark Street in a gritty, industrial part of the city stands a simple brick garage. Inside, 7 men associated with Bugs Moran's gang are gathered. They're not here for a party, they're here for a deal. They've been promised a shipment of top-shelf Canadian whiskey, hijacked and ready for sale. The price is a steal, the kind of deal that's too good to be true. And it is. The men are waiting for their boss, Bugs Moran, who is running uncharacteristically late. As they pass the time, a black Cadillac, looking exactly like an official police car, pulls up to the curb. 2 men in police uniforms step out, followed by 2 more in civilian overcoats. In Prohibition Chicago, police raids were a part of doing business. The gang members inside aren't scared. They've been through this drill a dozen times. They do what they're told, dropping their weapons and lining up against the cold brick wall, hands raised high. They think it's just another shakedown, a routine bust. They couldn't be more wrong. This is not a raid. It's an execution. Suddenly, the 2 men in civilian clothes step forward. They aren't carrying pistols or nightsticks. They're holding Thompson submachine guns, the deadly Chicago typewriters. Without a single word, they open fire. The sound is deafening, an unholy roar that echoes through the garage. Bullets rip through the air, tearing into flesh and bone. The execution is methodical, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. Over 70 rounds are fired in a matter of seconds. Men are cut down where they stand. Those who fall to the ground are riddled with more bullets, ensuring no one survives. The air fills with the smell of gunpowder and blood. When the Real police arrive minutes later, they find a scene of unimaginable horror. 6 men are dead. A 7th, Frank Gussenberg, is somehow still clinging to life despite being shot 14 times. As he lay dying, Sergeant Clarence Sweeney leans in close and asks the question on everyone's mind, "Who shot you?" With his last breath, Gussenberg utters 3 words that will become legendary in the annals of crime. "No one shot me." He refused to be a rat, even in death. He died 3 hours later, taking the secret of his killer's identities with him. The assassins, meanwhile, walk out of the garage coolly. The 2 men in trench coats emerge with their hands up, seemingly arrested by the 2 uniformed officers. It's a perfect piece of street theater. Anyone watching would think the police had the situation under control, just escorting 2 prisoners. They climb back into the black Cadillac and simply drive away, vanishing into the city. The massacre is complete. The city of Chicago awakens to the horrific news. This wasn't a Backley shootout. It was a cold, calculated mass murder. The victims were key figures in Moran's operation: the enforcers Frank and Peter Gussenberg, the gang's business manager Adam Hayer, and Albert Kashelek, another top lieutenant. Also killed were James Clark, Moran's brother-in-law, and an optometrist named Reinhard Schwimmer, a man who wasn't even a gangster but just loved hanging around them. He was in the wrong place at the absolute worst time. And John May, a mechanic who worked on the gang's cars, was also among the dead. 7 men, executed in broad daylight. But here's the most crucial detail of all. The 1 man the hit was designed for, the real target, wasn't there. Bugs Moran, the leader of the North Side Gang, had been on his way to the garage. But as he approached, he saw the police car parked outside. Thinking it was a raid, he ducked into a nearby coffee shop to wait it out. By pure, dumb luck, he had avoided walking into his own execution. The most expensive assassination in gangland history had missed its primary target. Immediately, suspicion falls on 1 man, Al Capone. The motive was obvious. Wiping out Moran's top men would cripple the North Side Gang and leave Capone as the undisputed king of Chicago's underworld. But Capone was clever. When the massacre happened, he wasn't even in Illinois. He was hundreds of miles away in his lavish Miami estate, in full view of the press. He made sure reporters saw him, sunbathing and smiling. He even had a scheduled meeting with the local district attorney. He had the perfect, ironclad alibi. And so, the investigation hit a wall. No witnesses would talk. The killers were never officially identified. The murder weapons were eventually found, but they couldn't be definitively traced back to Capone's men. Theories swirled. Was it Capone's top hitman, Machine Gun Jack McGurn? Was it the infamous Egan's Rats gang from St. Louis, hired as outside contractors? Were corrupt Chicago police officers directly involved, either as gunmen or accomplices? To this day, no one has ever been charged, let alone convicted, for the murders. The case remains officially unsolved. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was a turning point. The sheer brutality of the crime horrified the public. Before, gangsters like Capone were often seen as folk heroes, rebels fighting an unpopular law. But the image of 7 men lined up and slaughtered against a wall changed everything. The public outcry was immense. They demanded action. President Herbert Hoover himself famously declared Al Capone public enemy number 1. The federal government realized they couldn't get Capone for murder, racketeering, or bootlegging. He was too well insulated, too protected by layers of money, power, and fear. So they decided to attack him from a different angle. An angle he never saw coming: his taxes. Led by federal agent Elliot Ness and his team of untouchables, the government began building a case not on bullets, but on ledgers. They painstakingly documented Capone's extravagant lifestyle and proved that he had never filed a federal income tax return. In 1931, just 2 years after the massacre that solidified his power, Al Capone was convicted. Not for ordering the deaths of 7 men, but for tax evasion. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, first in Atlanta, and then in the newly opened super prison, Alcatraz. His empire crumbled. The era of the flamboyant, untouchable gangster was coming to an end. So why do we still talk about this crime nearly a century later? Because the St. Valentine's Day Massacre is more than just a gangland hit. It's a chilling symbol of unchecked power, of deep-seated corruption, and of a moment when organized crime became so brazen that it openly declared war on itself in the streets of a major American city. It revealed a dark truth, that justice can be bought, silenced, and sometimes completely erased by a hail of bullets. The story continues to fascinate us because the central mystery was never solved. The truth, like the killers themselves, simply vanished into the cold Chicago air, leaving behind only bloodstains on a garage wall and a legend that will never die. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. See you next time.